Shmita, 72b. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn everything. Most of our learning, we should have the basic English immediately. Okay, so we mentioned that there were certain women that they get divorced. They don't get a ksubah because they violated either the Das Moshe or the Das Yehudist. Either the law of Moses or the Jewish custom. So when speaking about the Jewish custom, we said that she goes out with what would be an example of that? It's a woman that goes out with her head uncovered, or she spins thread in the marketplace, and she speaks to all men. We're holding by the speaking to all men. The Beresim Kalada Mamra Yehuda Mashmuel. Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, what is that referring to? The Mesachekas in Bachurim. She jokes around with the Bachurim. People that aren't married, youngsters. I'm not sure what Bachurim means literally. What do they say over there? Young man. Amar Rabba Bar Chana. Rabba Bar Chana says in Eretz Yisrael. Zimna Chada, because Azilna Basrei de Rabba Ukva. One time I was walking with Rabba Ukva. Aziselu Arvia, I saw this, I guess, Arab woman. The Haviyasva Kashadya Pilcha Vitava Vered Keneged Panel. She was sitting, and she was Shadia sounds like throwing. I guess it means she was spinning her spindle and spinning thread, and there was a rose. Vered is a rose, or we translated last time like Rashi, that she was letting the string hang down onto her lap in front of their private area. Given the Chazisinon, once she saw us, she stopped her spinning, Shadise, and she threw it. Amrali, she said to me, Ulam. Ulam means like it's alma for the masculine. It's a young boy, young man. Havli Pelach, hand it to me. Hand me the spindle. Do they translate Pelach as a spindle? Okay. So Amar ba Ravukva commented about this. Amar ba Ravukva Milsa. Ravukva said something about her. My Amar ba, what did Ravukva say? Ravina Mertava B'Shuk. Ravina said that she's considered a woman that spins thread in the marketplace. It means if she would be a married woman, she would be, the husband would be divorced without a ksubah. Rabbanan say that she was considered someone that talks to all the men, and he would be able to divorce her for the other example. Okay. What's a woman that can get divorced, that the husband can divorce her without giving her a ksubah if she curses? And if she curses the husband's parents in front of him, her in-laws. Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmuel b'mekalkeles yilida b'fnei ma'ilida. This means that even if she curses the in-laws, his parents in front of his children, it doesn't have to be in front of him. And Simanach, if you want to remember that the children are just like him, it's a prime Menashe, Kruvim, Shimon, Yeli. The way to remember that is because Ephraim and Menashe, which is Yosef's children, were considered like Reuben and Shimon. So it would be the same law if she curses his children, or if she curses him. If she curses the parents in front of the children, or if she curses the parents in front of him. Amar Rabba, the Amra that she says, Nechle Arye Lasaba, a lion should eat the grandfather. Bapi Bray in front of the son. That's the curse. He says, let your grandfather be eaten by a lion. Okay. Tarfin Amartha Kalanis. Tarfin says also a woman that shouts. A screaming woman. My Kalanis, what does it mean, this Kalanis? She lets all the neighbors hear when they're arguing about relations. She lets everyone hear about it. That having relations is painful for her. So when they have relations, she screams so loud that the neighbors in the next courtyard can hear her. Gemara says, 1 second. That's not a bad behavior. That's a mom. That's a something that requires a doctor. That's not a bad behavior. Why is it put over here with the women that don't behave properly? It should be put with the women that have blemishes. Rather, the pshat is way the first one where she argues and lets the neighbors hear what they're arguing about. Okay, we have a new Mishnah. Think about the lion. Because how long does it happen? Right. Apparently, that's a curse. Okay. Anyone know where Naphtali is? Did he mention anything? Okay. I'm going to start the new Mishnah, Ayin Bed. Okay. Makadesh as Isha al Manas She'ina Len Nadarim Benimsa Len Nadarim Menim Kadeshes. Let's say someone betrothed a woman and they made a condition. He says, could be that he knew that sometimes she takes vows and he didn't want to get involved in this. He says, I'll marry you on condition that you don't have any vows. But it turned out that she did have vows. So there was a condition. So the rule is, she's not married. Let's say you just married her, but you didn't make a condition. But she has a lot of vows on her. She has some vows on her. She's not met. I'm sorry, doesn't say over here. Over here it says, over here it says she gets divorced, but she doesn't get a ksuba. Unless he can divorce her without paying her, because this wasn't disclosed. She had this blemish. It's like a blemish, where she has these vows. It's more of an acquisition. He's acquiring her. Now, notice what happened here in this Mishnah. He made a betrothal with her on condition that she doesn't have any vows, but she did have vows, so it's not a good betrothal. The next case was not he made a betrothal. The next case was he married her. He entered into a marriage with her, and that was without any condition. So we're going to see that it's not so clear if this is a follow-up of the first case where the betrothal had a condition, and then he went ahead and he ended up marrying her stam. Oh, I'm going to tell you there. Very good. I was just asking about you. We're in the middle of the Mishnah. So there's two ways of learning this Mishnah. One is that we have a brand new case here. Kansa stam, he marries her without any condition. Or it could be that this is not just he married her without any condition. This could be that he betrothed her with a condition. And then, ignoring that whole condition that he made, he goes and marries her without any condition. Could be like a continuation of the first kiss. Depends if you want to like put a period there or a comma. Well, turns out that she did have vows, but the rule was teitish le b'chsuba. Now, if you notice, there's a different expression here between eina mikudeshes and teitish le b'chsuba. Teitish le b'chsuba means that they're married. But he has to, if he wants, he can divorce her, but she doesn't get a ksuba. Eina mekudeshin means they're not even married. But the question is, does she require a get? The answer is that teitzish le ksuba means she still needs a get. If he made a condition that on condition he's marrying her, he's betrothing her, on condition that she doesn't have any blemishes, probably on her body, and turns out that she did. Not a good marriage. In Mikudeshas. Yeah. Because of the condition, yeah. Condition wasn't met. Let's say he marries her without any stipulation. But turns out that she has mumen that she didn't disclose. Teaches like ksuba, so he can divorce her without giving her ksuba. Kol mumen apaislam b'kayin and paislam menashim. All mumen, every mum that would be possible for a kayin would make a woman also. He would be able to divorce her without a ksuba. Okay. Now, Utanan Namigabi Kedushin. The Gemara says that this Mishnah, we also taught the same Mishnah in Kedushin. The Gemara says, Utanan Namigabi Kedushin Ki Gavna. So why does it have to say it twice if this same Mishnah is in Kedushin? At the end of the we didn't get the Kedushin here, it's going to come later. The Gemara says, Hacha Ksubas Tzricha. Notice that our Mishnah talks about a Ksuba. Teitzei Shlei B'Ksuba. Right? And because of that, Tana Kedushin not Ksubas. So therefore, we wanted to talk about the Ksuba in Sech the Ksubas. But one of the details was about Kedushin as well. Like Kacha, Makadish Ishal, Manas, that's a Kedushin story, but because it's one Mishnah, so we taught it in Ksubas. Awesome, Kedushin is Tzricha over there, but they wanted to talk about the Kedushin. But in that Mishnah, it talks about Ksubas. So Tana Ksubas at the Kedushin's over there, and lists it also as Mishnah. We have the same Mishnah in Kedushin and in Ksubas. Okay. I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Reb Shimon ben Yitzadek. Rabbi Yochanan says the name of Reb Shimon ben Yitzadek. It's very interesting that sometimes we have Rabbi Yochanan in the name of the Rashbi. Well, interesting. Pesa? Oh, Jewish accent. Okay. Sometimes we have Rabbi Yochanan speaking in the name of Reb Shimon ben Yochai, and sometimes it's Reb Shimon ben Yitzadek. We actually have some places where we're not sure who it is because the abbreviation for both of those names are the same. Rashbi, Reb Shimon ben Yitzadek or Reb Shimon ben Yochai. It's hard to know if it's really Reb Shimon ben Yitzadek or whatever, or even what the difference is. Like what significance that has. It comes up sometimes because we have statements from Reb Shimon bar Yochai that contradict what Rabbi Yochanan is saying in his name. So if you can adjust it to say it's Reb Shimon ben Yitzadek, then that could resolve the contradiction. Anyway, whatever the case is, over here we have Rabbi Yochanan saying, "Ve'ilu nedarim amru." You know, when we said that if a woman has vows, he can divorce her or not divorce her. If he marries her without the stipulation, then he could divorce her without paying the ksuba. Or if he marries her on condition that she doesn't have any vows and she has vows, so it's not a good marriage. That's talking about the type of vows that the vow was that she won't eat meat, she won't drink wine, she won't put on colored any clothing that has colored. It's plain black or plain white. Tanya Nami Hachi, you have a brisa that says the same thing. Beilin Adarim Amro, which vows are we talking about? Things that are affliction to the soul, like Techabasar, like Dishtam, like Saskatsa, Big Tzavanim. Okay, the same statement. There's only certain vows that would really make a difference for this stipulation. Well, heavy bar of Papa. Rav Papa deliberates on this brisa, and he has a question about this. He says, hey, what is the brisa referring to? Because if you notice in the Mishnah, there were two clauses. One clause was when he made a stipulation that he's betrothing her on condition that she doesn't have vows. We said that if she does have vows, then there's nothing, there's no marriage. The next clause was that if he marries her without any condition, turns out that she had vows, so he divorces her without a kesubah. Now we say, which vows were we talking about? So Rav Papa says, which case are you saying? Which vows are we talking about? It's only certain vows. Which case was that referring to? If you say it's when he said a stipulation, the first case of the Mishnah, given the kakapit, 1 second, he made a stipulation that she doesn't have any vows. People call me Linami. Why are you limiting which vows? That wasn't what he said. He said, I'm conditional. You don't have any vows. Allah Seifa must mean on the Seifa. When he marries her without any condition, and it turned out that she had vows, well, he's allowed to divorce her without giving her kesubah. That's Rav Papa's pshat. Rashi Amar Le'elam Reisha. Rashi says, really, we're talking about the Reisha. What's the Reisha? We already make a stipulation that she should not have any vows. Turns out that she has vows, just not these vows of not to eat meat and to drink wine. So what would be then? Something that other people would be bothered by. Then we say that that's what he's bothered by. But other people wouldn't be bothered by it. But then it's not, we don't say that it ruins the marriage for him as well. Even though he took a clear stipulation that he doesn't want it to have any vows, he was only referring to vows that would be bothersome to other people. It doesn't really mean any vow. It means a vow that would be a problem. That's the problem. Yeah. Okay, it's about to enter into quite a complex again. It's very significant, this again, because the discussion, there's a modern discussion, halachic discussion about someone that gets married with a conservative rabbi, or gets married civilly, not a civil, just a courthouse, and then they go home and they live a married life. So there's different ways of getting married. It could be kesef, shtar, and bia. Well, the kesef was given to her, the ring was given to her, and it wasn't kosher witnesses. They didn't use a document, or maybe they did use a document, but it wasn't done the way it's supposed to be done. And then, but they do have relations. It's not the document. But then they have the relations they have. So the question is, when they have relations after they get married, is that intention for marriage, or is that because they're married they're having relations? But it's not. You see, if they would be getting married, if they would be getting married with the relations, then he would have to have in mind, they both have in mind that this is the marriage. And they're really relying on the marriage that took place in the courthouse. They're not thinking that this is an independent marriage. So that's what we're going to get into over here a little bit. It's not going to talk about the courthouse and all of that. It's going to talk about a kedushin that was not effective because there was a stipulation there. But then he ends up marrying her. The question is, was he having relations with her? Was he relying on the kedushin that was no good? Or was he doing a new kedushin? So the question is, whatever took place, do they need a divorce? Do they need a get? If you say that they're married, whether it was the correct way, Orthodox wedding or not, but maybe they're still married, then they need a get. If you say that no, they're not married, yeah, no. If the marriage falls apart, then she would need a get. Otherwise, we say no, she doesn't need a get. Yeah, it's interesting. You'll see as you learn this Gemara, you'll see that you'll have some thoughts going this way and that way. Okay, starts like this. Itmar Kidsha al Tanai. The betrothal was with a condition. The condition was that she doesn't have any vows. Well, the consistam, and then the actual marriage was without any condition. So Rav Amar Tzrichem and a get. Rav says, I know the betrothal was invalid. Why? Because he made a stipulation that there should be no vows on her, and it turned out that she did have a vow. So that whole thing was nothing. But then when it came to the actual the marriage, there was no stipulation there. So when they consummated the marriage, there was no stipulation there. So Rav says that then they didn't have a betrothal, but they had a new betrothal. They didn't have the original betrothal, but they had a new betrothal because of the relations that they had afterwards. In other words, he realized that the first betrothal was no good, and he makes a new betrothal without any stipulation. That's Rav's view. Shmuel Amar Ein Tzrichem and a get. Shmuel says we don't require a get. Why? Because the original betrothal here was invalid.